Hi everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if you are really getting the most out of those AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini, and if you are using them the right way? This new study has some fascinating insights into that super important question. And you know what? It feels like that is happening overnight, doesn't it? These tools are popping up everywhere from our schools to our jobs, and with them come a whole bunch of questions. Are we using them safely? Do we really understand what we're doing with them? How can we be sure we're not just getting bad information or dealing with biases? Well, scientists are busy trying to figure out how to even measure if people are literate in using these GenAI tools. They've developed a new scale called the GAILS to help us understand this better, and it is specifically designed for us adults navigating this new world. They looked at people in North America, a mix of students and people working, to see how this scale holds up. And guess what? They found it works really well. It has excellent internal consistency, meaning the questions all seem to measure the same thing. They also broke down GenAI literacy into three main parts: how well you can actually use the tools, adaptive operational skills, how responsibly you use them, responsible GenAI literacy, and how well you can think critically about what the AI gives you and still manage on your own critical evaluation and autonomous use. Super cool, right? What this means in plain English is that the scale measures GenAI literacy in the same way for men and women and for students versus people in the workforce. This is a huge deal because it means we can actually compare scores between these groups without worrying that the test itself is playing favorites. If men score higher on one part, we can be pretty sure it is because they actually are, not just because the test is designed differently for them. They also found it has great construct validity, meaning it actually measures what it is supposed to and connects with other related ideas like how much people trust and accept using AI. So let's dive into how they figured this all out. They took a big group of adults, around 341 people, and split them in half. One half helped them figure out the basic structure of the scale, kind of like an initial exploration. This is where exploratory factor analysis, or EFA, comes in. Think of it as taking a bunch of puzzle pieces and seeing how they naturally fit together to form a picture. They used some fancy statistical tests, the K-Mo and Bartlett's test, to make sure the data was good for this kind of puzzle solving. The results of this EFA suggested there are indeed three main pieces to this GenAI literacy puzzle. This is a good sign, meaning the questions they used really strongly represented these three underlying factors. They named these factors adaptive operational skills, responsible GenAI literacy, and critical evaluation and autonomous use. It sounds like technical knowledge and practical skills got merged into that first one. Adaptive operational skills because they found that knowing how to use the tools and being able to actually do things with them go hand in hand. They also found that critical evaluation and being able to use AI on your own became a separate factor. This makes sense because just knowing how to use something is different from knowing when to trust it and when to do your own thinking. After they had a good idea of the three factors from the EFA, they took the other half of their participants and used confirmatory factor analysis, or CFA. This is like testing if the puzzle picture they came up with actually fits the pieces. They were checking if the three-factor structure they found in the first group held up in the second group. And it did. The numbers they got, like CFI, TLI, SRMR and RMCA, are all measures of how well the proposed three-factor model fits the actual data. Generally, numbers like these above 0.9, O for CFI and TLI, and below 0.08 for RMSE and SRMR, are considered good. Their results suggest the three-factor structure is a solid way to understand GenAI literacy. So, we know the scale has a good structure, but does it actually measure something meaningful? They looked at how the total GAILS score related to the three subscores and found strong positive connections. That is exactly what you'd expect. If you are good at all three parts of GenAI literacy, your overall score should be high. Now, for the really interesting part, they checked if this GenAI literacy scale connects with other things we care about, like how much people accept using AI and how much they trust it. And the results are pretty clear. People who score higher on the GAILS are much more likely to accept using GenAI tools and also report higher trust in them. This really speaks to the idea that knowing how to use AI well and responsibly makes you feel more comfortable and confident with it. It's like learning to drive a car. Once you know how to operate it safely and understand its limits, you are more likely to accept using it and trust that you can handle different situations. Now let's talk about the group differences. They looked closely at men and women. What they found was that men scored slightly higher on that first factor, adaptive operational skills. This is the part about actually using the tools effectively and adapting to updates. However, they didn't find significant differences between men and women in responsible GenAI literacy or critical evaluation and autonomous use. This suggests that any gender gaps in GenAI use might be more about the practical usage skills rather than ethical understanding or critical thinking. Then they compared students to people in the workforce. And here is a surprising one: students actually scored higher than those in the workforce on both adaptive operational skills and responsible GenAI literacy. So, students seem to be a bit more on top of how to use the tools and how to use them responsibly. The researchers think this might be because students often get more direct instruction or have more structured environments where they have to learn and follow rules related to AI use, like in their classes. Workforce individuals, on the other hand, might be learning more on their own. Interestingly, they didn't see a big difference between students and the workforce when it came to critical evaluation and autonomous use. That part about thinking for yourself and evaluating the AI's output. This might mean that critical evaluation skills are developed in both settings, not just one. They even used a cool new technique called semantic embedding analysis. Basically, they looked at the meaning of the words in each question and used computers to see how they clustered together. This helped them visually confirm that their three factors are indeed distinct but also related, almost like constellations in the sky. The adaptive operational skills factor was spread out, showing it covers a lot of ground. Responsible GenAI literacy was a tight, clear group, showing it is a very specific area, and critical evaluation and autonomous use was kind of nested within the operational skills, suggesting that evaluating what the AI does is a more advanced form of using it. So, what is the big picture here? This study gives us a really solid tool, the GAILS, to measure how well people understand and use GenAI. It is reliable, it is valid, and it works consistently across different groups like men and women, and students and workers. This is super important because as AI keeps evolving, we need to know where people stand. This research means we can start to spot where people might be struggling with AI. For example, if we see lower scores in responsible GenAI literacy, we know we need to focus on teaching people about ethical AI use and legal considerations. If someone struggles with adaptive operational skills, maybe they need more hands-on training. Now, like all research, this study has its limitations. The biggest one is that they only tested this in North America. So while it is a great start, we can't assume it works exactly the same way for people in other cultures or with different backgrounds. Future research should definitely take this scale and test it all over the world. They also mentioned the sample size was moderate, meaning more people in future studies would make things even more robust, especially when looking at smaller groups. And finally, while they looked at trust and acceptance, it would be great to see how GenAI literacy connects to actual behaviors, like how often people use AI, how they verify information, or even how it impacts their job performance or how they protect their privacy. But overall, this is a really exciting step forward. The GAILS gives us a way to understand GenAI literacy better, identify gaps, and hopefully help people become more savvy and responsible users of these powerful tools. It is all about making sure we can all navigate this AI-driven future safely and effectively. What do you guys think about these findings? Do they resonate with your experience using AI tools? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more dives into the fascinating world of psychology and beyond. We'll catch you in the next one.